One of the most commonly used and frequently cited rules or practices of classical filmmaking is the 180-degree rule. The 180-degree rule imagines that there's some kind of invisible axis between the camera and the players who are being filmed. The camera will always stay on one side of that axis and the players will always stay on the other. The belief was if the camera crossed that axis and went to the other side, suddenly people would switch positions. That is, people on the right would now appear on the left and vice versa. This is a practice that was established probably in Hollywood or in Western Europe sometime in the early part of the 20th century. As films began to be composed of more and more shots, practices were assembled and devised to allow audiences to be able to move through these films with ease and the utmost clarity, to never be confused as to when an action was taking place or exactly where actors or actresses were in relationship to each other. In this sequence from Harikari by Masako Kobayashi, one of the great directors of Japanese samurai and other films in the early 1960s, the gentleman who's been on the left has always remained on the left, but now he switches over, and because he does, Kobayashi gives us a re-establishing shot. We now see him on the right and the other gentleman on the left, and they'll retain these relative positions to each other until later on in the sequence they switch positions one more time, and once again Kobayashi will have to re-establish their positions vis-a-vis each other. This sets up a kind of not only equilibrium but a sense of exactly what their place within this complex scene might be. As you'll see, there are a number of cuts taken from a number of different positions, but screen action and the relative position of the characters to each other remains constant throughout the entire scene. Here, of course, they switch again, and the gentleman who was on the right originally returns to his original position. So that throughout this sequence, no matter whether we have close-ups, long shots, shots that focus on one character, or shots that include the two of them, their positions on the right or the left always remain constant for us. So here, for example, the character who's on the left advances and moves towards screen right, whereas the character who's on the right moves back towards screen right. So we get a constancy, a sense of not only their position relative to each other, but how their position remains constant even though what we're seeing are two very, very distinct shots. Naturally, if you look at enough classical films, you'll see many violations of the 180-degree rule, especially during fight sequences or combat sequences. But here, perhaps owing to the gravity of the circumstances and the gravity of the occasion, Kobayashi follows it faithfully.